Shirley. I'm a home educating mother of 6 children, and I've been homeschooling since 1997, which is over 20 years. I'm going to talk to you today about building families and building communities. And I have a slideshow prepared so that you don't just have to watch my face talking all the time. So let me just share my screen and then I'll get started. So I am originally from South Africa, and for people who don't know, it's at the bottom of Africa. I've been asked, so which country is that? So there's a little geography lesson, and probably the most famous South African is Nelson Mandela, with his quote that I quite like, that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. We all have seen that governments know this too, and they use the school system to indoctrinate children with their ideology and to promote their agendas. And so I rather like the next quotation by Mother Teresa, which says that the way you help heal the world is you start with your own family. And I'm sure that as home educators, we have a different agenda than many other politicians. And I've met Sylvia at the Global Home Education Conference in Russia in 2018. And it was lovely to meet somebody like-minded. And so it is an honor and a privilege. And I'd like to thank Sylvia for inviting me to be part of this and to share my story and to encourage home educators. She asked me to talk about my personal experience with my own family and also a little bit about the entrepreneurial ventures that I have in the home education industry in South Africa. So there's a picture of my own 6 children. 3 are now young adults, and the youngest 3 are still home educating. And it was this magazine article that I read in 1997 that got me started on this journey of our family home educating. And for those who are global home education leaders and have been to some of the conferences, you might recognize the family in the middle of the page. That is Karen van Oostrom and 2 of her 3 daughters. She and her husband, her late husband, Leendert, are considered the grandparents of the home education movement in South Africa. And they've certainly influenced many of us. And now, this was in 2018 at the Global Home Education Conference. It's Karen and 2 of her daughters who are now also home education activists. And it just shows that the second generation are impacting their communities and also going to change their world. So back to my family. They used to be little, and at a stage I had a bunch of little kids, and for the first 12 years I was pregnant or home educating with babies and toddlers. And so it was a challenge, and life was hectic and messy, and sometimes I wondered if I was doing the right thing or doing enough. And for anybody feeling that way, this quotation by William Butler Yeats got me through many a day when I felt like I wasn't doing enough. If I compared myself with what home educating friends were doing, who had fewer children or older children or somebody to help them, I knew that I wasn't perhaps doing as much as they were. But if I could light that fire and get my children to love learning and to be motivated to take ownership of their education, then I knew that I would be successful. So I started homeschooling, and after a couple of years, I realized that we were using a reading program and a maths program and library books pretty much for the rest. But the reading program and the maths were American homeschooling programs. And so they had things about bears and snow at Christmas and Thanksgiving and things that were not part of our South African culture. And so I realized that I'm going to have to find resources, particularly stories, because I liked to have a literature-based approach to home education and find South African flavored stuff to share with my children. And I ended up teaming up with another home educating mother who had a similar vision. And in 2022, we published the first home education curriculum in South Africa based on literature called Footprints on Our Land. And while we were researching and reviewing all the books that we included in this program, we also came across beautiful picture books. And because we both had younger children, we knew that if we wanted this for our young children and our families, other mothers would also want it for theirs. And so the next program, called Little Footprints, soon followed. And then we also found resources for teenage readers, and we launched a program called Footprints into the 21st Century, which focused on some of the rough years in our country's history, the wars, the freedom struggle through apartheid, and into the 21st century where South Africa is today. So it's been a wonderful literature-based learning adventure. And we always had the idea that we wanted our children to read widely so that they would learn to understand the struggles that our country has been through, the problems from the past and the present, and that they would be motivated to make a difference, to build their communities and to, build something better for their country. And many people have asked us over the years how we've dealt with the issue of bias, because the ruling government of the day in any country often retells the history with its own flavor and its own perspective. And so this quote is a long one, which I'll just leave on the screen, but it sums up pretty much the approach that we've taken, which is that we want our children to know there is never just one narrative. And we want them to read perspectives of different sides of an issue. So, for example, the Anglo-Boer War, we have stories from a British perspective with British families and children as the heroes. And then we have other stories about the South African Afrikaner side and the struggles and their perspective, so that our children can see that it's not just one side were the heroes and the other side were the bad guys. There's actually right and wrong on both sides of any war and any struggle and any issue. And so that's how we've dealt with it. And we've had people from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all cultural groups in South Africa use our programs, and no one has complained. So I think we succeeded. We then were asked if we had resources for Afrikaans families whose mother tongue is not English. And so in 2021, we launched the world's first Afrikaans literature-based home education curriculum called Voetspore. And while we were researching that, we also came across new resources on another topic. And so in 2022, we launched this literature-based program called Footprints Nature Quest that focuses on our animals and plants and the natural environment. So it's a natural sciences program, which is beautiful in color and just marvelous. So this is my business partner, Wendy Young, and we obviously are promoting our programs. And so we attend the home education expos in all the major centers around South Africa. And we discovered that our programs fill this niche in the market for South African families to be able to teach their children about their community and their country through literature. And we see that families and little children learn about life in these ever widening concentric circles, as I've shown there. So at these expos, we often end up chatting with families, and often mothers shared their struggles with us. And we kind of felt like the agony aunties. And we realized that from our own experience, we had a lot of encouragement to offer parents. So we've often done workshops, sometimes in our homes. Sometimes we've done little, workshops in other venues to encourage homeschoolers on this journey. And now you can also find us on YouTube. We do weekly 10-minute chats on a whole range of topics relating to home education. And we just love to encourage other home educating parents. So you can go onto YouTube, search for Footprints on Our Land, and you'll find almost 100 little clips on different topics. we realized that our program fills a niche in the market, and it gives families the freedom to have a different kind of lifestyle where they can follow the interests of their children and learn about things that are local and things that are interesting and things that are relevant to their children's lives. We've also had feedback from parents who said it was delightful to use our programs because they've learned, as this one says, there was such terrible propaganda that we were taught growing up in the school system. And through our programs, even the parents are discovering that there are different perspectives and how to go about showing children that there isn't just one point of view. So we've had lovely feedback about our families falling in love with books and literature and enjoying this relaxed approach to learning that they are able to enjoy using this eclectic style of home education that we encourage. And so I think it's important for parents to hear over and over again that you are your children's best teachers. And it is the parents' love for their children that I believe sets them up for success. And I'm just going to run through a few more points to reiterate this and to hopefully encourage parents. So the first reason that I think parents are the best teachers is because we know our children's history intimately. We've known them since birth. We've known all about their health and development, any issues that they might have, whether they reach their milestones on time or ahead of average, or whether they were slow to develop. And we know whether they've had any illnesses that might have caused delays. And so we also know, just how our children are wired. So we know if a child needs to hang upside down to learn, or needs to move to learn, or if they need absolute peace and quiet. And it's this love relationship that we have that enables us to take care not only of the academic side of learning, but also the emotional side. Children must feel safe and secure to be able to learn. Stress hinders learning. And in a classroom, children don't always feel 100% safe. So at home, because of our love relationship with our kids, they know that we love them and we accept them, and they are probably better able to learn. As mothers and fathers, we are also very protective over our children, and we are wired by oxytocin from birth to protect our children from negative influences, negative experiences. And we are able to control what they are exposed to and to deal with the negative things that happen in our home, like sibling rivalry or, negative behavior, but we can do it out of love. In a classroom situation, you don't always have that kind of loving adult in charge. Parents also have their children's long-term best interests at heart. So this means that if a child is struggling with anything, parents are highly motivated to find a solution for that child. You can't just pass that problem on to the next teacher next year. You have to deal with it. And parents, because they love their children, are highly motivated to deal with issues when something needs dealing with. The court even recognizes that mothers have this motherly instinct of, it's sometimes a gut instinct. It's sometimes things you can't even easily put into words, but they know that mother knows best. And they recognize that there is value in this unconscious knowledge that often guides you to make decisions on behalf of your children. And home educating families are protective over this freedom. This is us going to Parliament to meet with legislators about proposed change in the legislation. And here with us was a young couple, and even with the baby, she was there and he was there to hear what was going to happen and to fight for the freedom to choose what's best for your family. We are highly motivated as homeschoolers. We are strong, and these are brave parents who are choosing to live life differently. We are changing the community that our children grows up in. And this is how we influence the world and make it a better place, by doing things in what we see as a better way. We are putting our families first. We are redefining work and home life. We are finding that balance, even though many parents need to work from home or need to change their job so that they can work from home. Home educators are putting family first, and by so doing, they are brave agents of social change, and they are re-establishing new boundaries of work and school and family. And teachers are merely trained to deliver a curriculum en masse to a classroom full of children. They are not really trained to nurture each child to wholeness and maturity. Only you can train up your children in the way that they should go. So trust yourselves. You are the experts on your own children. And sometimes you don't even have to teach. Sometimes you just learn alongside your children. Sometimes your children teach you things, like this is me learning a little bit about video editing, which I'm still not good at. Sometimes you build things together. My husband and my son were doing Bitcoin stuff. And sometimes it's not academic things that you need to do with your children, but you can follow their interests and let them learn things that they're interested in. So it's not always about the academics. Finally, in closing, I think we all know that governments have a different agenda and try to dictate what schools and home educators should do. But we need to stand for freedom for our children. Excuse me. I'm just going to close with this lovely photo of our homeschool community standing for freedom, and encourage you to know that it's your love that's going to make you successful. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that something will resonate with you and encourage you.